guys, welcome back to Freedom Friday and the Timmy Tom Show. We have a great episode, as always, in store for you today with a special guest, which we will introduce in one moment.
Who's better looking than we are?
Yeah, agreed.
By far.
Well, are you ready?
I'm ready, yeah.
And are you ready? Okay,
Yes.
Here we go. Hey guys, welcome back. Before we begin, make sure you hit the like button on this video and hit the subscribe as well. As you already know, YouTube has taken down 2 of our videos for medical misinformation, all that other stuff, right? And so we like to play by YouTube's rules as much as we can. But when you like this video, it tells us YouTube to push out the content more. And so make sure you do that and then share this video as well. But Grandpa, we have a special guest today.
We do.
We do.
Yes.
Her name is Monique De Leon. And if I pull up your bio here, you are an author, a speaker, a worship leader, and an abstinence advocate. And you also have a podcast.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, so Monique, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so like you said, that's what I do. I travel nationally as well as internationally, leading praise and worship and speaking for different events, conferences, services, things like that. I also wrote a book, and the book's called Pursuing Purity Under Pressure. And from the book, I created a bunch of online courses. I'm a course creator as well to help people grow in their relationship with God. So I've just extracted things from the book and expounded on it. But the biggest thing is, yes, an abstinence advocate. I am a firm believer that this over-sexualized culture we are currently living in is gotten way too much. The pendulum has swung way too far. Yeah. But it's time to bring it back. So I wanted to reintroduce the message of purity in a new and in a fresh way. So
that's cool.
That's what I do.
You know, it's very fitting today because, you know, the question I posed to you this morning was, can you have a moral and just and thriving society if the citizens do not exercise self-control in sex? Mm-hmm. Right? If they're not going to exercise self-control the way God says it. So let me ask you this. How does God define sex? How does he define what's right and wrong according to sex?
Okay. Well, it's something that he created, and it was his idea. So it's just
so it's not just taboo.
No,
and I'm very pleased that it's his idea.
Yes, it was God's idea, but his idea has been taken and been perverted and used wrongly. And so because of that, we see such a depraved society. Even history has shown us that. And so it was for the confines of marriage, and God did that on purpose because of everything that is involved when someone has sex. Because sex is, I talk about, it's physical, but it's also emotional, mental, it's biological, and it's spiritual. Yes. And so there's so many elements to it. So that's why God said, this is great, and you're going to fully enjoy it, but it's going to be the best in this boundary. And boundaries are something that we need, that we are seeing when we have a lack of boundaries. Things get
it's kind of like we talked about this on one of the last episodes with Samuel Adams and everything, where it says in Harvard school they have a quote, and it says the law is the wise restraints that make men free. Where it's kind of like a Ferrari, whereas if you have a Ferrari, it's only good if you obey the safety laws. Right? It's not good if you just go as fast as you can. You're going to run off the road. But if you obey the safety laws, you get to enjoy the Ferrari as much as you can. And it's the same way with God's laws. God's laws aren't there to take away our fun. They're actually there for our freedom. Yeah. Right? But talk a little bit about the culture, because the culture has this idea that if I have restraints on me, I just want to be free. I just want to be with whoever I want to be, and I'm just being my best self. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I think the problem is because once you start pushing boundaries, it's going to always progress further and further and further and further. And this is what we're starting to see in the current culture, even when it comes to children. I really do feel like our kids are at risk when it comes to pedophilia.
We just came out of June.
Because more and more, because of what they're teaching now in school, starting in kindergarten, teaching children how to have oral sex, how to have anal sex, and they're showing them actual pictures, not just cartoons anymore, but actual pictures of adult genitalia. And so it's it creates, you rob the innocence, and you are pushing something way too soon. And this is what happens when you don't have a boundary and you don't say this is too much and this is why this boundary is here. Things go further and further and further until really self-destruction is what it comes to for a society. Like we've seen that's the whole, why we called it the wild, wild west, because there was no like law, no rule of law. People didn't, whatever you want, whenever you want. And that's when destruction will happen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So especially for a society as whole. And that's when we see,
interesting,
especially sexually, when there's no restraint, this is why. So.
Yeah. Well, as you were saying that, I was thinking about a lot of different things. On the positive side, God has said, when a man and a woman come together, they become one flesh. There's a spiritual connection, as you mentioned, that happens, but it's much deeper than just the physical connection.
Yes.
Because he says they become one.
Yeah.
One unit, one thing. There's a togetherness that's different than any other kind of togetherness. But the other thing that struck me was, you said when you remove the restraints, everything keeps tumbling further and further and further and further. And you mentioned what's happening with the kids in kindergarten that I didn't realize was happening, and it struck me. It hurt. It hurt my heart when I heard that, because children need to be nurtured and safe until they reach a certain stage of life. Scripture says, train a child in the way he should go, and when he is old,
he won't depart.
He won't go away from that. So God has already given us a direction that we need to try to help our children be prepared for life and all the elements of life, but not be so overexposed that they're torn in different directions. And what I think is happening to young people today is, instead of young people going, okay, I see where God has us going. I'm a man or I'm a woman, and God has said, here's how you progress, and here's how you grow. Here's how you become identified with your partner for life of the other sex. Here's how you have children. Here's how you deal with the things in your world. All of that is separated from a child when they're said, wait, do this. And there's an inherent, I believe, emotional danger in kids being overexposed to sex. I can't put my finger on it exactly, but there's something inside me feels that there's a real emotional danger that the child themselves somehow goes, this doesn't seem right yet.
Yeah, completely. 1 Thessalonians 4. I mean, God talks about sex a lot. Like you said, you brought up Genesis, that the two will become one flesh. Jesus quotes Genesis in Matthew, right? Where he says, it's the two will become one flesh.
Right.
A man will leave his father and mother and be clean to his wife. Right.
But
he talks
wife. Sorry.
Yeah, his not his. That's incest. Leviticus talks about that. Yeah, but God's law talks about this, and sex is meant to be enjoyed within the confines of marriage between a man and a woman. Yes. Only man and women. That's the only way God blesses it. Any other time, it's sin. Yeah. Right? And in fact, 1 Thessalonians 4 says it's God's will that you should be sanctified, that you should avoid sexual immorality. Sexual immorality is anything that involves sex outside of marriage with your spouse of the opposite gender. That each of you should learn to control your own body in a way that is holy and honorable, not in passionate lust like the heathens who do not know God. And that in this manner no one should wrong or take advantage of a brother or sister. The Lord will punish all who commit such sins. As we told you and warned before, the Lord is the avenger. That's pretty cut and dry. So what are the benefits, though, with remaining pure until you're married? Because the culture says, well, don't you need to test drive a car before you do it?
Oh my gosh,
People always say that. So, and then a part of my story, I could speak, is that, so I am a virgin, so I'm waiting until I get married to have sex. And that is definitely something people say all the time. I've had coworkers and
I'm sure you've heard everything when people find that out.
And yes, so no, because it's one of those things where, I mean, the benefit on a physical, natural standpoint is I've never had a pregnancy scare. I've never had to get tested for STDs. I've never You know what I mean? On just the natural standpoint, but
Yeah.
even emotionally, I don't have an emotional attachment to someone that I've been intimate with from the past,
Right.
because we see that so much, that people still haven't gotten
It's
over
freeing.
someone that years ago that they were in a relationship with. And so I don't have any of that. But also what marriage does, and Deuteronomy chapter 20 something, I can't remember where, but somewhere around there.
We brought the Bible with us today.
I want to say 25, 24. It talks about when a man and a woman first get married, how that first year
Yes,
basically is
you're
like
right.
a bonding process. And that's why it says he's not to go off to war. He's
Yeah.
not supposed to be working. That first year of marriage is really a bonding process for a husband and a wife. And so waiting until marriage, that is the benefit, because that's what's happening.
It's chapter 20.
Chapter 20. Okay. And it
Good
was
job.
in the 20s.
You had it.
And it was in the 20s
You had it.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is the benefit. And that, and even being a virgin, I feel like it's something that whether I married a man who was a virgin, then great, because this is something we discovered together. Or if I married someone who wasn't a virgin, that's okay, because he can teach me all this stuff as well. So, I mean, I don't see it as like a negative, but it's like a win-win either way.
Yeah.
So I think the benefit is definitely in waiting, because if I would have already, I just think of like, what a waste. Do you know what I mean? On a man that I'm not in covenant with forever. Like,
Yes.
it would have been such a waste to give myself
And I think
to
that's
these other people.
Well,
That's-
like
go
you
ahead.
said, emotionally, it's damaging. If you give emotionally into a relationship like that, and then it falls apart because there is no commitment,
Yeah.
there is no actual bonding that's taking place, that hurts your spirit.
Yeah.
And that's hard to deal with. And as you said, I was thinking about people that I met in my life who are at that point. They've been robbed of something. Something's been taken from them that they feel they cannot get back, and they never quite feel safe in the next relationship. I'm thinking of people that I've known over the years who had one relationship that didn't go well, and they went into the next one which didn't go well, and they went into the next one which didn't go well, and I think it's all because of that first one. It was more just sex than it was relationship.
Yeah.
And that tore something out of them that's very difficult to put back. God can put it back.
Yes.
And he does put it back if you allow him to.
Yeah.
But if you keep pushing away what God is saying to you and just looking for the next person who you think is going to satisfy that need inside of you, that's the hard part.
exactly.
Like you said, if we wait, God has promised all kinds of things to us. Many of the things that he's promised outside of sex, he's made a lot of promises. Some of them he delivers on the first day. Others he says, I'll prepare you. I'll get you ready. I'll bring it to you slowly. It'll grow. And so if you take the quick road, you miss all of that stuff that God says, this is the best way for you to be prepared for the perfect relationship.
Yeah, and going back to what you said, you never had a pregnancy scare. You don't have
Yes.
to worry about whether you have an STD or not, and everything else like that. I'm the same way. I'm also a virgin, and I remember one time when I was getting the physical, right, for basketball, the nurse was asking me, "So, do you have an STD?" And I was like, "No, I know I do not have that." You know, and it's just good saying that, and it's our culture looks down on it so much.
Yeah.
But I think at the same time, they also admire it
Yes.
deep down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let me ask you this. Why have you chosen, because it's a choice, why have you chosen to wait till marriage?
I think honestly, one, I mean, I know it's something that this is what God is asking of me to do, and this is what his word says, so out of obedience and love for him. But also I think it's kind of something that happened to me as well. Meaning, like, by the time I got into high school, I had a very different upbringing where my mom instilled so much of the things of God into me since I was a little girl. And, you know, I asked Jesus in my heart when I was really little and felt the Holy Spirit and everything as a little kid. And since I was 4 years old, she would memorize scriptures with me and stuff. And so she just put a lot of faith in me.
That's awesome.
And so by the time I got to high school, it like became my
very
mission
similar.
field. Okay. So ever since I was little, then laying hands on people, praying for them and stuff, and just seeing the miracles take place. And so when I got into high school, it was one of those things where it was like, I was able to minister to my teachers. I'd lay hands on my teachers and pray for my teachers in class, and they start crying because the presence of God just showed up. And kids in class, I'd lay hands on them and pray for them if they were sick or injured, and they were just instantly healed and all the pain left.
Wow.
So it was one of those things where it was like, I want more of that instead of what the world is trying to give me.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like when I laid hands on this kid in class who he was a soccer player and he sprained his ankle. He was going to be out the rest of the season. He was on crutches, and I talk about this in the book. And I asked him, he was just walking by me during passing period, and I said, well, what happened? And he's like, I'm done for the season. I might have to have surgery, yada yada. I said, well, can I pray for you? And he was like, yeah, because his foot was like in a brace. And so I laid hands on him, prayed for him. I didn't know him or anything. I was just a stranger. So I laid hands on him, prayed for him. I said, okay, how does it feel? And he's like, well, the pain's gone. I was like, okay, well, go ahead and try to walk on it. And so he would take a little step, and he's like, okay, I don't feel any pain. And I said, okay, go ahead and put more pressure on it. So then he started putting more pressure on it, and then he jumped on it, and he had no pain. So he took off his brace, he threw that and the crutches in the trash, and he's like, thanks, and walked away. And so it was like, the more that I saw God use me like that, that's what I wanted more of. Yes. So everything else, so that's why I say, in the sense, I feel like it happened to me while I still knew, and out of my own love and devotion for God, but it was like, no, this is what I want more of.
It's what Jesus says in John 15, that I'm the vine, you are the branches. He who stays connected to me will bear much fruit, and my Father trims them so they will bear even more fruit. And so Jesus trims us, right? So we can bear more fruit. And it's kind of the exact same when you said the more you saw God use you. It's like the more you feed, it's the old Indian proverb, right? Or Native American proverb, that there's two wolves competing, and the one that's going to win is the one you feed the most, right? And it's the same thing in regards to the flesh and the spirit. Is whichever one you feed the most is the one that's going to win. And so if you're going to feed things that honor God, His word, living according to His word, it's going to increase your appetite for Him. And you build up a tolerance or a resistance to whatever's not of God, right? And that's what the Spirit of God does. And it's the same thing with sex.
And it's kind of like, if I can add to that, so you have your flesh and your spirit, but your mind, which is your soul, your mind, will, and emotions is in the middle. So your mind will side with whichever one. So your soul and your spirit will gang up on the flesh if that's what you're feeding. But if you're only feeding the flesh, then your soul and your flesh is going to gang up on your spirit, and that's why you won't be successful. So that's why, whatever you're feeding the most, because your mind, will, and emotions is in the middle, basically, and it will side with whichever one is stronger.
Let me ask you this. Because being a believer, it kind of narrows down the playing field a lot when you're looking for a spouse, right? Because obviously you want somebody who has the same views as you do, right? They don't have to be a virgin, all that kind of stuff, but I want somebody who's following after Jesus, right? And also has the same view as maybe, you had sex before, but now, knowing Christ, you want to wait for the right person until marriage.
Well, it does, because and it should narrow it, because Scripture says, "Do not be unequally yoked."
That's right. That's what I was going.
I always say a term: no missionary dating. So missionary dating
that's good.
Is you as a believer
have
found interest in someone who's not, so you're trying to get them saved, so it'll be okay for you to date them. I've done that personally, so that's why I say it. No,
and it's really easy,
missionary
isn't it?
dating. Yes, I have met many men who were wonderful and handsome and charismatic, but didn't love God. Didn't love
it actually
Jesus,
pulls you down more. In the long run,
it does.
You know what I mean?
No missionary dating.
Well, let me ask you this. In regards to sex and everything, how do you remain pure? Because it's a tough culture. It's a tough culture to live in. How do you yourself remain pure?
So I talk more in detail on this. I have a course called Temptation Under Pressure. And so one of the main things is guarding your ear gate and your eye gate. So what you listen to and what you watch is definitely going to affect you, because everything starts with a thought.
True.
So
it's
even
laughs
sex
in the mind
starts with a thought.
So
the things if you're watching porn, or even I encourage people, even some of these shows that have such graphic sex scenes in them, And it's not porn, but it's like still you're putting that in you. That's what's going in you.
And the music too.
Music paints a picture. So if you're listening to things that is constantly talking about sexual stuff or the way they're treating women, all of that goes in you.
You hear that, folks? No more Cardi B.
No, please don't. So agreed. Yeah. Because those music videos, all that stuff that goes in you, and those thoughts will come back on later on in your mind. And so that is the first step, is guarding what you watch and what you hear. Yeah. Definitely helps. So
your appetite. What are you eating?
That's what you're feeding yourself.
Yeah.
So that is like the first and foremost thing, is to watch what you listen to, watch what you hear, and even what people tell you, like sexual jokes or even things that people are putting in you as well, because that'll have the same effect. So
there's two verses that come to mind. One is 1 Corinthians 15:33 that said, "Bad company corrupts good morals."
Yes.
And then also in Ephesians 5:3, where Paul says, sexuality or any other impurity must not even be named among you. But then he also says, no more coarse talking or silly joking.
Yeah.
Like no dirty jokes.
Yes, coarse jest. Yeah, coarse jesting.
Because it's improper for the saints. It's improper for children of God, because we're pure in God's sight. That's very, very interesting.
And God's goal is to make us more like Jesus day by day. Yeah. Even if we have come to Christ and are saved, and yet we're impeding any of the growth that God wants to do, that's a terrible position to be in. You can feel it yourself when you're in that position, that I'm not doing what I need to be doing, and it's not benefiting me, it's hurting me. But it also, we can resist the Holy Spirit.
Yes, we can.
And not allow him to fully do what he's going to do. Yeah. And what God says is, the things that I'm doing for you are things to benefit you, things to prosper you, things to help you grow, things to give you joy, things to give you peace, things to give you a good breath.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's also the view of how to see it, because I think a lot of people think it's like there's all these rules and regulations, but it's not. Like, God is not trying to ruin your fun, like you said earlier, but he's also trying to protect us, is really what it comes down to, because he, as a loving father, sees up ahead where we can't, and so he knows what's going to hinder, he knows what's going to derail us. So these guidelines, boundaries, if you will, that he has set, is for our protection, emotionally, mentally, physically, sexually, everything.
And what you said, that it starts in the mind. Jesus says in Matthew 5 that you have heard it said, do not commit adultery. But I say to you, if you look at a woman or a man and lust for her in your heart, you've already committed adultery with her, right? And that's why Jesus takes the law and is like, well, I'm not doing this, so I'm good. I'm righteous. And Jesus says, no, you need to go one step further, because God looks at the heart. What are you thinking about? What are you meditating about? Because what's in the heart eventually comes out and everything.
Yeah. So it's guarding those areas.
Yeah.
I think that's very wise.
Yeah.
If we guard your thought life, what you listen to, and what you watch, that'll probably help you out a whole bunch, and who you hang out with. And that'll narrow down, because when you start having a hunger for the things of God, the things of the world don't satisfy as much.
No, they don't. And it also weeds out the people in your life that you're going to be with.
Exactly. And
because, like Proverbs says, to examine your friends carefully and examine those people that you are carefully.
Yeah. And then Proverbs 5 and 7 also talk about Solomon seeing a young youth who goes by the way of the adulterous woman, right? And I remember when I was 18, I was with a family friend, and we were talking about purity and everything, and he was telling me, so what was the man's first mistake, right? Because he listens to the woman, he eventually goes to her, they have sex, and then Proverbs says that, like an ox that's led to the slaughter, so he's following her. And he said, what was his first mistake? And he's like, going by her way first, going by the door of her house.
Yeah,
because he knew it was her house. It wasn't just, I'm going down the street and I didn't know she was there. He knew she was there.
Yeah, and so don't even entertain those things, right?
Yeah.
Don't even entertain them. Now let me ask you this. for somebody who maybe is watching this who hasn't lived a life of purity, or and is a believer or is not a believer, what does the scripture say to that? And that maybe is feeling conviction right now. What does the scripture say to that?
Or how should they respond?
Yeah, how should they respond?
Well, I think it's always just to remember, and I encourage people, that there's always forgiveness at the feet of Jesus. Because when Paul is talking in, I believe it's 2 Corinthians, to the believers, and he's listing all these things, lifestyles, and he says, and such were some of you, because this is how they used to live but no longer do. And so it's the same for anyone who decides to open their heart to God, open their heart to Jesus.
Yeah.
You can start fresh, and that's what the blood of Jesus does. It washes away every sin where you're brand new, and he doesn't even remember. God will never throw up your past to your face again. He'll never remind you things you did in the past. And so it's a choice that if you have already gone that route, you've been very promiscuous, that you can just choose today that you're going to do something new. And God says yes, and he will receive that. So there's always forgiveness at the feet of Jesus.
Amen.
Amen.
Yeah. 1 John 1:9, if we confess our sins, he is faithful and righteous to forgive us and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. But the first step is you have to realize I've been doing things wrong. And then you have to...
And that's what confess means. It means agree with God that what I did was not right. And I agree with you, Lord. You are right, and I was not right. The last part of that verse is really significant. It says, if we confess our sin, God is righteous and just to forgive our sin. And then he cleanses us from all unrighteousness. That means all the other things that I didn't mention, and maybe even things that I didn't even think of at that point, God says, when you come to me and confess that and ask for my forgiveness, I not only take that thing away, but anything else that's there, it's taken off the board. I treat it like it's not there and never been there. So the promise is, the result of the promise is even better than just handling this one thing. It's handling everything. And the next time that you stumble and fall and do something like that, God says, it's okay. Come to me again and confess. I'll cleanse you from that. I'll cleanse you from all the other things that you may not have thought of this time.
Yeah, he doesn't run out of grace.
No, he has forgiveness enough that if you could sin every single second of your entire life, he has enough forgiveness to forgive every single one.
So with our YouTube channel, our podcast, what we want to do with the Timmy Tom Show is we want to be a bridge between faith and politics, right? And for so long, the church has said we don't do politics. And now we see the LGBTQ agenda becoming political. And the church is not having a voice in it, right? And they need to be. And it's the same with this. If it's mentioned in the Bible, there's really no difference between faith and politics. God has something to say about everything. And so, in closing, if you really want to be happy, take responsibility for your life, get married to one man or one woman of the opposite gender, have kids, live according to how God says you should live, and then you will be happy and fulfilled. Would you agree?
Yeah. I mean, because then within that, it's like God just will guide and show you direction of what to do. And that's where you will be the most satisfied, is doing what God has created you to do. And you'll find that within the midst of this.
And just one simple word, doing that makes your life the best that it can be. It doesn't mean that all the problems will be gone, because you will have problems. You'll have, your illness, or you'll have accidents, or you'll have other people who treat you unfairly, or a boss that doesn't like your work, and who knows what it is.
People calling on the telephone when they're not supposed to.
Yeah, that's right. I thought I told you don't to ring. So we don't want somebody to say, oh gosh, you promise every day will be birds singing and beautiful sunshine. It will. However, there will be stumbling blocks along the way. And that's why God is so great and so faithful. You see, in our lives, when we stumble and fall, we blame other people, or sometimes we blame ourselves, rightfully. And then we feel bad, and then we mope about, and then we try to make it work the way we want it to work. When you deal with God, he doesn't deal with any of those things. When you're hurt, he ministers to you to help you through the hurt. Sometimes he'll take the hurt away right away.
Yeah.
Like Monique was talking about the guy who had the sprained ankle. Sometimes he does. Sometimes he says, this is a good time for me to show you how I can minister to you through this. So I'm not going to take it away, but I'm going to make it so that you can go through this and come out better at the end.
Right.
But he always does something. He always does something. He lifts you up, or he changes the circumstances. Sometimes he does both.
Yeah.
But he does in every single case. So if you come to Jesus and you go, I think this is great, and my life has been new, and I'm fresh, and God has forgiven me, and oh gosh, I did that. Now what do I do?
Come to Jesus.
Forgiveness flows continuously. So expect there will be times when you'll go, gosh, I did that. Why did I do that? That's going to happen. God handles that too. And he doesn't come over and slap you up the side of the face and say, how could you, how dare you, after all I've done for you. He doesn't do it that way.
Mm-mm.
He takes you, he holds you, he gets you through it. Sometimes there are things you do where God says, like a parent, I told you not to do that, and now you got to get a time out. But during the time out, I'm going to be talking to you about how to do it the next time so that you don't fall into that same thing. I'm going to be helping you change the way you look at things and the way your mind goes about it so you don't get trapped in that again.
Mm-hmm.
So just be aware that that's part of the process.
Let me ask you this, Monique, and then we'll close up. Do you feel like you've missed out on anything being a virgin?
No, absolutely not. Not at all. It's such a wonderful thing that I'm going to be able to give my husband when I get married someday. Like, I don't feel I've missed out one bit.
And that's so huge, because if you ask somebody who has had a promiscuous lifestyle, they'll say the exact opposite.
Mm-hmm.
They'll say, I feel like I'm missing something.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to kind of twist it a little bit, add a little twist, I feel like I've missed out on a lot being a virgin. I feel like I've missed out on a lot of heartache. I feel like I've missed out on a lot of pain, a lot of this and that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you have the struggles, but it's like, why would you willingly go to somewhere where you know is going to cause damage? Future damage. But yeah, that's great. That's great. I've never met anybody who's gotten married and said, man, I wish I would have gone a little farther before I got married. It's always, I wish I would have waited.
Yeah. I hear a lot of people say that.
Mm-hmm.
They wish they would have waited.
That's
So
right.
good.
Well, where can people find you at?
Okay, so
Yes.
you can go to my websites, my name, MoniqueDeLeon.com.
We'll put it in the description below.
And there you will find videos and stuff of me speaking, leading praise and worship, my own music, the book you can get from there as well. And then pursuingpurity.info is where you can find the online courses to help you in this journey and even just to grow in a relationship with God. So MoniqueDeLeon.com and pursuingpurity.info. And you can link through to all of my social media from the websites.
Awesome. Everything else?
No, this is terrific. Thank you, Monique.
Thank you
Yeah.
for having me.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks.
We'll do this again, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, guys, thanks for watching today. We hope that this was a great encouragement to you.
Mm-hmm.
And the best thing you can do is don't take our word for it. Look up what God says for it yourself, because
That's
you're
right.
smart enough, and God has given His Spirit to help you understand what He says in His Word. So with that, we will sign off for now, and we will see you from our new location that we're going to be at next week.
That's right.
We'll tell you guys where it's going to be. Well, you'll see. You'll see. It'll be good.
It will be good. It'll be fun.
Anyways, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, guys. See you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
That's a wrap. As in case you haven't noticed, we have a special guest today. Her name is Monique De Leon, and she's got a really... Let me do that again.
Yeah, do that again.
I'll intro you after that. And that's what happens. That's why I got the phone right there.
Excuse me. I have to take this.
Go ahead.
Excuse me.
We'll do a little intermission.
I have to take this.
Yeah. We'll be back, folks.
Oh my gosh, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
It is so cute. every
I
single
won at Bible trivia
all the time.
in college, actually. I think I won a gift card.
Oh, did you?
I love it. It's the funniest thing to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like,
Best kind of trivia.
Or
I'd
like in the
rather-
Bible, they're like, okay, fine, Haggai, whatever.
Yeah.
Find it.
I always mess with people. What does Hezekiah 3:20 say?
See, it's not even in Hezekiah.
Or like my favorite book, Second Opinions. That's just great. I mean, you got an opinion. Second Opinions is where you're gonna go.
Second opinion.
It's not canon yet. It will be though. Welcome back.
Hi.
Hi. You know, those little naps are so refreshing.
Can you do me a favor?
I can.
Let me just make sure it's still recording.
Oh.
Yeah.
Little naps are so refreshing.
We're good.
You were talking about with the flesh and the spirit.
Yeah.
They're going to have that same thing happening there.
And it's true because
It's Joe Biden calling. How I was going somewhere with this, folks. Narrows down the playing field.